Welcome students for another class on cost accounting. Today we are going to cover overheads. You will definitely get one question from this either in MCQs or an explanation type of problem. So in this class I will be covering mostly the theoretical aspects of overheads. So let's start. Basically understand what is overheads. Overhead means all indirect costs. So that is the basic understanding of overheads. So it comprises of cost of indirect material, employee and expenses which are not directly identifiable or allocated to a cost object in an economically feasible manner. That means if you have to trace the cost to a particular material or employee, means you will have to spend some resources. It is not economically feasible. It's an aggregate or sum of all indirect costs. So overheads are charged to the product basically on absorption method. So how absorption works, we will understand it through some steps. First step is about collection. So the first step is collection, classification and codification of overhead. We will see each one of them. Second step, you have allocation, apportionment and reapportionment. Third, you have absorption of overhead. So these are the important steps involved in absorption of overheads. First step is overhead collection. Collection, as the name suggests, you have to finally calculate what is the total cost of overhead from different functions or departments. The sources of collections are source requisition, wage sheet, cash book, purchase order, journal entries, other registers, etc. So once you have all the data, so it has to be then segregated to different type of overhead. We will understand it through this flow diagram. So where the collection is happening in the first stage. All the costs related to different departments are collected from store, how much material was consumed, what was the labor cost, similarly from purchase, from sales and marketing, admin, logistics, distribution. After that you will get a lump sum of overhead cost. Let's take it as 10 crores. Now this 10 crore finally has to be absorbed by product, correct? Per unit basis or per hour basis. How it is done? It is done in the second stage, which is apportionment and reapportionment. It will be apportioned based on some basis. Let's take the example of rent of the factory. So how the rent of the factory is apportioned, on what basis? It is based on floor space occupied by different departments. Then there will be some service departments also who do not produce any products. So the overhead cost of service department has to be reapportioned to production department. This process is called as reapportionment. Usually service departments are, example is a canteen or a transportation. They do not produce any products. Hence all the cost, if it has to finally go to the product, it has to be reapportioned to production department. Once it is apportioned to production department, so this 10 crore now will become something like 5 crore, 3 crore and 2 crore against 3 production department. Now it will be absorbed by each units based on how many units are produced by each department. So if 5 crore units are produced by this production department 1, so then 1 rupee per unit will be absorbed. So this is the entire concept of how collection, apportion and absorption of overhead takes place. Next topic is classification of overhead. How overheads can be classified by different methods. Majorly they are classified by functions. Functions means depart. In a factory environment there will be production or manufacturing. You will have office and administration, selling and distribution, R&D. So these are different departments based on which the classification of overhead happens. Other types are by nature. Rent, depreciation, all these are also indirect costs. Then you can also classify overhead based on elements. Material overhead, labor overhead and expense overhead. Another type of classification is by behavior. Fixed overhead, variable overhead and variable overhead. These are similar to the fixed, variable and semi-variable costs which you learned in the first unit. So this is an example of classification based on elements. You can pause here and take a screenshot. You can look at the examples. Here also you can pause and take a screenshot. Here what I have explained is classification based on functions as well as elements. So for example, manufacturing indirect material are these nuts and bolts, but administrative material are the printing and stationery supplies. It's a very good collection of overhead costs for your reference. So now let's understand what is overhead allocation and apportion. Allocation is charging it to one cost center or cost unit directly without any apportionment. That means the overhead cost is a complete benefit is going to one product. Such a relationship is direct and it is called as allocation. Apportionment is allotment of a proportion or a share of that cost to different cost centers or cost products. So overhead item, let's take example of rent and building. The basis will be floor space area. Similarly, general lighting, here also you can have floor space area or number of light point. Telephones, number of extensions. A depreciation of factory building, again floor space. Material handling, number of material requisition or value of material issue. You have to be very thorough with the basis from the examination as well as a practice point of view. So when you look at one of the problem, you will understand. This is an example of problem on apportionment of overhead. On this class, I will only discuss the data of this problem, and in the next class, I will solve this problem. Let us understand the question, very important. A factory has 3 production department and 2 service department. So this is an important data. Why? Because if there is a service department, then reapportionment will be the following overheads and other information are extracted from the books for the month of January 2016. Let us see what are these expenses. So you have rent, you have repair, you have depreciation, lighting, supervision, fire insurance for stock, ESI contribution, power. They have given the detail, other detail through which you will have to derive the basis. What are the other information given? Area, square feet, number of workers, wages, value of plant, stock value, horsepower of the plant. So when a problem is given on overhead apportionment, you should be very thorough in the basis. If you can find out the basis, your problem is solved. So there are 2 types of problem. One is simple problem and one is complex problem. So overhead is a simple problem, but it takes time to solve this. I will just give heads up about basis. So rent will be area. Repair, what is repair? You tell me. Depreciation, so it can be value of plant. Lighting, if they are given light points, so light point is not given, so here I will take area again. Supervision, number of worker. Fire insurance of the stock, it is very easy, stock value. Then ESI contribution will be on wages, not number of workers. Power will be HP of plant. So repair will be based on value of plant. Now once you have the basis, in the apportionment, what you have to do, this 6,000 rupees you will have to spread across 5 departments. So we will see the detail in the next class.